What's a very disturbing fact almost nobody knows? Organophosphates, including the chemical weapon sarin gas, work by inhibiting your muscles' ability to relax. Your muscles basically constrict and can't unconstrict, causing what feels like a muscle cramp through your entire body. Your arms, your chest, your eyes, your tongue, everything. It most frequently unalives you via asphyxiation because you can't exhale. Surviving means a permanent, irrecoverable loss of motor function, even with rapid medical treatment. Story 2. The Romans used to torture people by having goats lick their feet. Goats like salt, so they would soak their feet in salt water. Eventually, the goat's tongue was rough enough that the skin would wear away. Then you'd have a wound with salt trickling in. I will never stop being disturbed by torture methods. Just thinking that at some point someone had to think of doing this to another person and then actually do it, just upsets me. Story 3. At any moment, a nearby star could possibly become a gamma-ray burster and point a jet of radiation at the Earth that would vaporize us instantly. Math says a gamma-ray burster located 100 light-years away that aimed directly at us would generate the energy of 100 Hiroshima bombs per square mile across the entire exposed surface of the Earth. Anything caught in this blast directly would be vaporized instantly. It would also instantly boil the oceans and rip the atmosphere off the planet. It would end all life and leave the Earth a charred cinder in space. And it is 100% impossible to see one coming since it moves at the speed of light, because gamma rays are light. Story 4. Encephalitis lethargica causes you to slowly survive but not live. After bouts of deep sleep where patients can be woken very easily but fall immediately back into the deep sleep, they're left with post-encephalitis symptoms. The main one being that their minds are fully aware and conscious but they can't physically function. A bit like locked-in syndrome. And they display extreme apathy. They even know they're displaying apathy but can't express any emotions. So they're completely stuck until someone throws a ball at them, which they can immediately catch. Or someone holds their hands and walks alongside them. Then they can suddenly walk. Otherwise, nothing. So bizarre. Narrator jumping off this one real fast just to say that there's a movie about this condition with Robin Williams in it called Awakenings, I think. I watched it when I was far too young and I have fears now, but it's a great movie. Highly recommend. Story 5. I've said it on here before, but it still disturbs me to think about. Moray eels have a second set of jaws and teeth inside their throat. They latch on to prey with their primary jaws, and then the second set can move forward and either latch on and pull the prey down their throat, or eat away at larger prey without having to let go. Creepy as hell. Story 6. If you were to put the entire lifespan of the universe from the Big Bang to the final heat death on a 24-hour clock, the universe's current age, estimated 13.8 billion years, would have not reached the end of the first 30 seconds. If you were to go into the far future past the point where there are no more solar systems, the planets have either been destroyed or become rogue planets, where there are no more galaxies, everything either being swallowed up by black holes or being ejected from the galaxy, no more anything of normal matter due to proton decay, and no more black holes due to Hawking radiation, even here at this point, you would not have reached 12 o'clock on our universe clock. The universe will spend most of its life as a dark, cold, empty void, until the background temperature reaches negative 460 degrees Fahrenheit, negative 273 degrees Celsius, or 0 Kelvin, at which point entropy wins. Time becomes meaningless and the universe remains in a cold, dead state for all eternity. Story 7. As a cancer researcher, I was fascinated to learn that the most common cancer is lung cancer. The majority of patients were, of course, smokers. But that's not the worst part. The second biggest cause was secondhand smoking, usually from a close relative or spouse who is a smoker. So millions of people are unknowingly leading their relatives, children, and spouses towards death because of their smoking habits. This was a big thing I remember when I was growing up, at least in Canada. They really pushed the idea of secondhand smoke very bad, be careful. And I'm glad for it, because dying because of something like that I basically couldn't control, that'd feel pretty bad. Story 8. Due to quantum uncertainty, particles can appear or disappear at random. Usually, we're just talking quarks and other subatomic particles. But there's nothing saying larger particles can't generate, it's just less likely to happen. There is also no intrinsic limit to how many particles can spontaneously appear or disappear at any given moment. Scary answer. This means it's not outside the realm of possibility that you could simply cease to exist for no apparent reason, as every atom in your body simply winks out of existence at the same time. Silly answer. This also means it's not fundamentally impossible, just really unlikely, that your atoms will randomly reassemble, turning you into a giant bowl of tapioca pudding, complete with oversized novelty spoon. Story 9. There's only one reason DMSO, dimethyl sulfoxide, is dangerous, and is the model chemical for why you wear gloves around all solvents. DMSO absorbs straight into your body and into your bloodstream immediately upon contact. It won't unalive you at all. It's completely safe on its own, although huge excess is probably not good. It's what DMSO might have in it. It dissolves both polar and nonpolar things like water or fats, respectively. So you could dissolve a totally harmless to touch chemical that is only dangerous if it gets into your bloodstream in DMSO and never know. It also makes it an effective delivery method for medicines that you can't eat, maybe because you're too sick to keep anything down. Bonus fact. You'll know if you've touched DMSO. If it touches your skin, your mouth will immediately taste like garlic. Story 10. Blind people can still hallucinate if they suffer from Charles Bonnet syndrome, which is a common condition among the blind. Also, sometimes our brains will make us hallucinate on purpose as a reaction to lack of stimuli, this being a reason why people claim to see things in the mirror, especially in dark or dim spaces, such as when playing ritual games like Bloody Mary. So if I'm understanding OP correctly here, then the blind hallucinators will see things still? That's gotta be kinda cool in a way. I don't know, I guess I kinda think that hallucinations of most kinds are cool, in moderation at least, so I'm probably biased on that. Story 11. In the 70s, Ford did a cost-benefit analysis and determined that their defective Pinto model would cause approximately 180 deaths, 180 injuries, and 2,100 damaged cars. They estimated the cost of lawsuits and vehicle repairs to be $49.5 million. On the other hand, they determined it would cost them $11 per car, $137 million total to fix the defect in the car to make it safer. Guess what they did? Yeah, they decided, what's 180 human lives compared to more money? Screw 'em. And boy, did they pay for it. The whole situation blew up, no pun intended, further than they expected, becoming a huge ordeal for the company. What's really sad is reading about some of the victims of the Pinto and their terrible deaths. Story 12. This isn't really disturbing, but neither Alaska nor Hawaii was going to be the 49th state. A secession movement was going to create the U.S. state of Jefferson, created from parts of Northern California and Southern Oregon, mostly in response to SoCal being so different from NorCal in economy, culture, geography, and, well, basically everything. Their planned date for announcing and starting the paperwork, December 8th, 1941. And then, the day before, Pearl Harbor got bombed and the US was sucked into World War II. The plans got thrown on the back burner and never materialized. Story 13. Breaking someone's neck and unaliving them instantly is a movie and video game trope. It's not as simple as a quick jerk either. But when pulled off, the person would be paralyzed and lose the ability to even breathe, so eventually they suffocate while absolutely helpless. May take about 2 minutes. That is disturbing, and I didn't know it. I guess because I've seen it everywhere, I was just under the impression that, snapping the neck is an instant way to go. No, guess not. Story 14. Companies like Google, Amazon, and Facebook have been working for 20 years to create an entire new economic model called surveillance capitalism in order to sell you more stuff. This has created an economic incentive to track everything you do both online and in the real world. In order to more accurately predict what you're going to buy, these companies have decided that modifying your behavior is an acceptable business practice. As it turns out, you can influence people in a multitude of ways that might even be against their best interest. This is now happening at a global scale and has made these companies extremely rich. To make matters worse, now everyone is doing this. Look up Cambridge Analytica and the book The Age of Surveillance Capitalism for more info. Story 15. The greatest mass extinction event our planet has ever faced. The end Permian event, known as the Great Dying, unalived nearly 96% of marine species and 70% of terrestrial. For a while, its cause was a bit of a mystery, but thanks to modern genetics, we might have an answer. You see, geneticists have dated the evolution of the archaea methanosarcina's ability to metabolize acetate to be approximately 252 million years ago. Before they developed this ability, there was no effective way for acetate to be digested by life forms, and enormous stockpiles of it had accumulated on the floors of Earth's oceans. So 252 million years ago, suddenly, methanosarcina evolves a new way to eat acetate, and it has an entire ocean to feast on. It breeds out of control, and as it eats, it farts, releasing methane gas at a level never before seen in Earth's atmosphere. The planet literally starts to die, suffocated by the collective farts of a single-celled organism. But it gets worse, because this wasn't the first time that Earth nearly died to farts. You see, 2.4 billion years ago, another single-celled organism evolved a little thing called photosynthesis, and started to pollute the Earth with another dangerous fart gas. oxygen. The oxygen holocaust occurred because photosynthesis evolved before respiration, so oxygen simply accumulated in the atmosphere, and oxygen is deadly to life forms not adapted to it. Most anaerobic life forms are unalived by exposure to oxygen, and at the time, pretty much all forms of life were anaerobic since the atmosphere had no oxygen to exploit. So cyanobacteria starts to fart out a load of oxygen and nearly unalives all life on Earth. Why is this scary? Because if it happened once before, it's a fluke. But if it happened twice, it's a pattern. Life on Earth nearly died in the most undignified way possible, choking on its own farts. And that happened 2 separate times. So when your aunt or uncle next decides to deny climate change by joking how stupid scientists think cow farts will unalive us all, you can remind them that not once, but twice was life on Earth nearly destroyed by farts. Unfortunately, OP, the kind of people to deny climate change in that way and say that scientists are stupid probably wouldn't listen to this either. It's a nice thought, though. Not the getting suffocated by farts thing, I mean like educating people about climate change and the dangers of it. Story 16. Light only travels so fast. When we look at the stars and galaxies in the distant universe, we aren't seeing them as they are now, but we're seeing them as they were hundreds, thousands, even millions or billions of years ago, because the light from them has taken that long to reach us. Some of the things we look at in the night sky no longer exist at all, preserved now only as light, slowly expanding out through the universe. The universe is also not one static size, it's expanding. Its borders aren't just getting wider, it's expanding more like a balloon expands, meaning the distance between any given 2 points in space is getting longer, and the expansion is growing faster over time. Now, what's disturbing about these facts, when taken together, is that there will come a conceivable point in the universe where galaxies will still exist, but the universe will have expanded so much and so fast that the light from all the other galaxies will be unable to ever reach another galaxy. Every remaining galaxy will be completely isolated. Intelligent life could still theoretically arise on planets within these galaxies during this time, but when they look up at the night sky, they will only see what is within their own galaxy and nothing more, ever. They will have no idea that the universe is or ever was anything more than their one single galaxy and the limited number of stars and planets contained therein. With the best technology available to them and a proper application of the scientific method, they will study the nature of the universe and come to the wrong conclusion, only because they happen to be born too late to have had the chance to obtain crucial evidence. All of which begs the question, what might we ourselves have been born too late to see? What knowledge might forever be outside our grasp? This one is very interesting to me. Not so much disturbing, though, but it is kind of fascinating and almost nice to think about what we could have missed. I don't know. I like the idea that there are things that we will never experience and never know have existed. I think a certain level of ignorance is kind of crucial. I guess this doesn't make any sense at all, but it's how I feel about it. Story 17. Unless you are a nuclear history buff or watched the recent Chernobyl miniseries on HBO, it is fairly unknown how much of Eastern Europe was nearly leveled by the accident because of the meltdown burning through the concrete to the huge water pool below it. Death tolls could have been in the 100 millions in a matter of days, and surrounding cities like Kiev could have been leveled. There was also a high chance from this reaction that most of Europe would have been poisoned through air and water supplies. Story 18. A very large portion of major scandals are out in the open for a really long time before they're reported. A story just broke of a journalist who had all the information we have on Epstein now, and she had it 3 years ago, but ABC refused to run the story. It really shows how much the media is in control. There can be public knowledge of somebody doing something and the public won't react if the media doesn't push it. If you look at the right places, you can find most of these stories months and even years before they come out. I remember reading about how Facebook was stealing all our private information and selling it years ago, and then it came out after 2016, and I was a little surprised that everyone was shocked that's what they were doing. Sometimes actors or celebrities will make a joke or reference to somebody being shady. Little hints like this that you can pick up on. Shows like Family Guy have a lot of subtle jokes that predict the future. It sort of makes everything seem fake once you start to pick up on it. So many scandals that nobody even reports on. The media is so fake. Towards the end, this one got a little too conspiracy theory-y for me. Mostly with the Family Guy thing, that's kind of weird. I do, however, agree with the general sentiment that the media controls a little too much of public perception of things, but that's also just the nature of it. If media exists, that's how it's going to exist, I think. Story 19. In the Persian execution The Boats, You would be force-fed milk and honey and then trapped in a boat with another boat on top, with your head, hands, and feet sticking out. You would be pushed onto stagnant water with bugs. You would get diarrhea and the maggots would show up there. You'd vomit and get bugs on your face. Then you would repeat this process until you slowly died, covered in bugs and your own waste. It took one guy 17 days to die this way. Story 20. I don't know if this is a little-known fact, but a current theory states that the quantum fields holding the universe together exist in what's called a false vacuum. That is, they haven't quite reached the lowest possible energy level, a vacuum state, yet, and there's some energy barrier stopping them from doing so. So these quantum fields think they're in their vacuum state, but really, they still have a little energy left to lose. The disturbing part comes in when you consider the fact that, according to quantum theory, these fields have the capacity to spontaneously tunnel past that barrier, allowing them to randomly reach a lower energy state. If a quantum field were to change energy level, the fundamental laws of physics governed by that field would change. If this false vacuum theory is true, this could mean at any time, in any place, the very fabric of reality could spontaneously come undone, causing a bubble of absolute annihilation to expand outwards from that point at the speed of light, destroying everything it touches. What's worse is, if this theory is true, there are probably already countless bubbles like this expanding across the universe, relentlessly making their way towards us. Imagine, 1 minute you're minding your own business, and in the blink of an eye, every trace of mankind's existence is wiped from time and space. I've said it before in a different video, but this kind of stuff doesn't freak me out that much. I'm not going to be around to deal with the consequences. It's going to happen instantly. It sounds fine to me. It seems a little self-important for humans, honestly, to be worried about this kind of stuff. If something cosmic wipes us all out instantly, it was meant to be, I guess. Story 21. The CIA is responsible for the introduction of crack into the US. They brought it in from Nicaragua, trading it for guns with fascistic death squads they were funding to fight the newly elected left-wing Nicaraguan government. The point of bringing crack into the US was to destabilize the Black Power movement and Black communities at large. The point of bringing crack into the US was to destabilize the Black Power movement and Black communities at large, and it worked. The journalist who uncovered all of this, Gary Webb, was driven to unalive himself by the CIA. Story 22. In Cambodia, from 1975 to 1979, a communist regime took over and forced the population into horrendous work camps. Educated people and anyone who had ties with the French or Americans were executed. Families were split apart, and people who couldn't work were unalived on sight. In the end, the death toll rose to 1.5 to 2 million people, about a quarter of the population. Story 23. Maybe not something no one knows, but one that's rarely contemplated. It's not uncommon for severe car accidents to cause brain trauma and memory loss of up to several years of one's life prior to the accident. This means you could get brain damage years from now, and when you wake up, this moment is the last one you'll remember. Essentially time traveling, in the sense that at any time, you could wake up several years older with no memory of the interim. It's the most disturbing thing I can imagine, and makes you wonder if life that can't be remembered is truly lived. OP getting a little philosophical on us at the end. And this, I think, is a proper disturbing one. The idea that everything I've done, like, now for the past 2 years could just be erased by something like this, at least in my mind, is horrifying. Not being able to remember things that I've done or a period of my life, yeah, amnesia, not a fan. Anyway, I hope you're all thoroughly disturbed now, and thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next one, if a gamma ray burst doesn't unalive us all at least.